I request Ms. Kalpana Rao to join the committee. I request the students to felicitate Ms. Kalpana Rao. It is our privilege to introduce Ms. Kalpana Rao, the Deputy Director and Head of the Communication Department at Vidya Sagar, a pioneering organization committed to inclusion and empowerment of persons with disabilities. Ms. Kalpana Rao is recognized expert in augmentative and alternative communication, widely known as AAC, and has made significant contributions to capacity building and professional training in this specialized field. She has conducted numerous AAC training programs at national and international levels, including in Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and Oman, supporting professionals and caregivers in developing effective communication strategies for individuals with complex communication needs. In addition to her professional and advocacy roles, she serves as a faculty member for AAC in the certificate course in Assistive Technology Solutions conducted by Niche, where she has been instrumental in training professionals in evidence based AAC practices. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Kalpana Rao Botha's work stands as testament to her commitment to inclusive communication, professional excellence, and empowerment through AAC. We are honored to have her with us today. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Ms. Kalpana.
Good afternoon, and I know we are all waiting for the lunch hour now, so I will try and finish my talk as short as possible. And thank you, Lata. Yes, I agree with all my previous speakers that it is something, this topic of standardization is very important. Particularly, I mean, it's not like other things are all standard and we are having, but for AAC, I think it is really somewhere we are very far behind actually, because I just wanted to show you also how we have been going through the journey of India through the AAC devices. But for the benefit of some of the students here who are special educators, I just wanted to see what is AAC. AAC is any communication system or a strategy which helps a person who is having a speech difficulty to overcome or to be able to communicate. So we have in the AAC, we have right from a low-tech communication chart to what we call a high-tech, a laptop or an iPad or any other speech generating devices. All of them come under the gambit of AAC. And anybody who is having speech difficulty, either it's a person with cerebral palsy or a person having a stroke or any other temporary or a permanent disorder, we try and use AAC. So in AAC, a person, the topic is what are all the devices a AAC user is using. Yes, definitely anything which is around AAC, the alphabet boards or a communication boards or a tactile board comes into that. Hardware part of it, of a keyboard to a switch. Now, many of you may not know what is a switch. Switch is if a person who is having already a communication difficulty also has a motor disability and is not able to use a regular keyboard or a mouse, they have to use something called a switch. Switch is nothing but a left click of the mouse which has been adapted as a switch. So many of the hardwares are being used by an AAC user. Apart from the software, like others said, the screen reading, magnifier, speech to text, and text to speech are all the softwares which are integral to a parts of the AAC to be able to communicate. Now, mobility devices play a very large or a good impact, because unless you are seated and unless your AAC devices are placed in a proper mount, this is not going to be possible for an AAC user to communicate. Now, along with that, the thing is the environmental control, which is a part of the AAC device, which has to happen if the standards are nicely done. Now, our India's journey into AAC, like the previous speaker, Ms. Dr. Ajish has said, a lot of things have happened on the hearing and hearing aids, and the standards are already there. But unfortunately, for the AAC user, the AAC products are not yet standard, not even being thought about that these have to be standardized. Now let's look at what is India's journey. In 1990s, when I started my career, or as a parent when I had come there were hardly any devices in India which were manufactured. We used to only import these devices. Now, once you import, what happens? It is not custom made. So you are just getting only something standard and we have to cope with it. So the accessibility, compatibility, and affordability was very high. So we used to have devices in organizations like Indian Institute of Cerebral Palsy or at Vidya Sagar. The organizations used to get the imported devices and try it out on with the children. What happens, it is like a jewelry, you use it for some time and take it back, because one device is being used by 100 people. Just like a wheelchair is legs and the mobility for a person with using a wheelchair, a AAC device is the voice of the person who is using it. I mean, you can't have one voice shared by 100 people. So that was something which was making us very, very frustrated. So around 2000, lot of us, like as a user, as a center, because organizations like Vidyasagar or Indian Institute, whoever works with the children and adults with disability, for us, the user is our center. So we started a journey with the user as the center, and organizations and technical institutes like IIT Madras, IIT Kharagpur, Mumbai, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and our own Anna University. Organizations like IICP, that is Indian Institute of Cerebral Palsy, Calcutta, Vidyasagar, Chetna Trust by Dr. Namita Jacob, and Enability Foundation, again an offshoot from that, and of course around ISAC India, that is the International Society for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. This is an international forum, but we also have an Indian chapter. Now, we I have held many seminars. One of the seminars, I think many seminars, Lata Rajendran had helped us to host. And we had got the corporates right from Webel, that is in Calcutta, Invention Labs of Chennai, Slate was one of the Aarti had started, and Dextrovare. All these have started from seminars like this, where we used to have seminars to find out what is AAC, what is assistive technology, how do we develop, how do we not import but do our own things. Now that had come now to a present that we have so many devices done and manufactured in India. We have the sensor switch. It's a movement sensor switch. We have a press switch. We have squeeze it. I'm starting with the hardware part of it because that is a 90% of our problems with AAC get solved if your hardware is in place. Touch switches, foot switch, or a head mouse called Dextrovare. Now, all these are making access possible. The next one would be the eye gaze technology, which even more better for people with high support needs are able to do an access to a computer or a laptop, wherein a software like Avas. Most of you would have heard about Avas. It's a communication software which is again developed in India. We have Kavi, PTS, which is again one more software. All this, Angelo is a free to use software, and Sanyog was the first software which was developed in 90s, in 2001, and all we started. So these are all, some of the softwares are free to use, some of them are paid, but at the end of it, at least we have softwares which have been developed, and using that a person will be able to communicate well. Now there are other things also which have been developed by students across the universities and IITs. This is the complete access to the computers. These are called sweepsticks, which are again, actually the usage is only by the few, but even nobody has to be left behind. So that also we had covered. Now, this is not just possible only because of the organizations or the companies which are corporates which have come, or the, but also because of the rapid technology evolution in AAC. What has happened over a period of time is we have moved away from a dedicated communication system to something where already existing in the mainstream, hitching on to that solved many of our problems. So AI powered language prediction helped the the softwares to be having a communication as a generate speech generation was much better. Integrating into the mainstream devices, your iPads, iPhones, everything, or even the tabs are having. So that hitching helped us to understand and get it closer to the people who are using it. Multimodal inputs, that I would say, thanks to eye gaze and thanks to the switch developers, this has happened along with the touch screen. The touch screen made a lot of difference in the AAC users, because yes, if you are looking at a percentage of people who can use the touch screen is much more than those who would like to use it as a switch way. So that has improved. All these are mainstream items which had been taken into the AAC devices, and that is how the growth has happened. Now, personalization and data analytics has helped us to go into the customization and help them. And of course, the speech synthesis, I think, is the best of the whole thing, is the speech generating device. Previously, if you had seen that, most of you wouldn't have been even, I mean, birth at all, or like maybe Lata and me. The speech devices which we saw in 90s were horrible. We just could not even understand. For your generation, it is different because you have not even seen those speech synthesis devices. But now these devices are very good. Now, what happens, what is the challenge we are having is the abandonment of the communication devices. Why is this abandonment happening in spite of all the previous things which I have said? It is because of the interoperability. Now, if I have a switch which has been developed for a switch user who has to use it to access all the devices which are connected with your laptop or iPad, or should be able to be a switch access. Now, there is a software for the switch access which may not be compatible with still. So that is something, a standardizing thing which we need to work at. If someone is developing a switch, it has to, either it has to be plug in, plug out, with the USB port, or it has to have a program which is compatible with all the other things. Otherwise, the student or the adult will buy an AAC switch and they are sitting with that but no access, because all the other operations are not being happening. Now, compatibility across apps and social media, even today, if you have a Gmeet or if you have any other meet with an AAC user, it is tough for them to log on to that with their own AAC devices. So still we are that is why I said we are still miles away from coming into standardization, because nobody, even the social media apps which are being developed, do not think about this 2% of people who are still waiting for the integration to happen, which is very difficult, because it's not just that, it is denying their access to information, access to communicate. Unknowingly, people are doing it, not that they don't have, but the standards do not specify even today that AAC devices have to be thought about before being, integrated into that. Now, because of that, what is happening? Always the people who are producing these devices are doing it in a small. They just do it for 30 pieces, 100 pieces, because the market is the whole, the funding, because they are doing only 30 or 40 pieces and putting it into the market. The fund is affected, access is denied, because it's a small percentage, integration is not happening. So even though we are saying that interoperability has to be happen, it doesn't happen because the loop in which people are there. Now again, the training and support systems for whatever the devices we have is only minimal. Now the way forward, mainstreaming is the only way for the accessibility, affordability, and sustainability. There is no other second option at all for us. This we have realized many, almost 20 years back, we realized this is no way we are going into the dedicated systems. We have to have only integrated into the mainstream. Again, in the mainstreaming, you need the user centric. The one good thing why India has moved to an extent where we are having so many AAC devices or a softwares there, and it is really overwhelming, and nice to see when you go to US, Avas is there everywhere. You have the movement sensor where it is not available in any other country which has been developed by our own minds. This is so much we have, but still many of the devices which are being coming, they do not keep the user as a center and design. They do that, come back to us as professionals to do the market or a field testing. When you don't have a user as a first level and do it as a field testing, it doesn't work. So many devices go back because user-centered designs are not up. That has to be the first step. The next one is, yes, promote open ecosystems. Use everything which is there. Mainstream technology is the basic. You need to cling on to that to get an AAC device, because already standards are available for all the mainstream technology. Whether you use a laptop or whether you use a mouse or whether you use an app, everything has already standards set. So clinging on to that would make us do. Now the policy changes, a lot of changes, like the previous speakers have told, that there is a ICT rule that is coming in. There are so many changes, and the BIS is coming. But I think what is needed is at the user-centered design and the standardization of all these devices is the need of the hour. Now, the most, what I mean, at least we are all, the AAC sector is looking at is the assistive technology standards, which is in the draft version now, which is going to help us to have classification, certification, and procurement of the AAC devices, affordability and user safety, and integration of the assistive technology into the health and social welfare schemes. Now, at least what the most of us, we were so excited about this when we read about the draft, and many of our AAC users were a part of it, is the AAC comes not along with the other devices, but it has a different category now called as specialized assistive technology. Now, having at least one heading to it is going to go, okay, this cannot be ignored, is what we are thinking. Because otherwise, everything along with the hearing aids, along with the wheelchairs, if it is there, this 1% population is being ignored. But now, under the specialized assistive technology, AAC is, of course, along with the cochlear implants and the prosthetics, we are hoping to get some amount of attention to the standardized thing. What happens, why it is very important for standardization is, an app, it has to be working all through with any type of switches or a mouse or an adapted mouse or an adapted keyboard. Along with it, the keyboard or an adapted switch has to have standards. There are things, a person might have a seizure, they might have a startle reflex, they can have a double click happening. It should not be able to take that. Even the minimum thing is not being addressed right now. So that is something we are hoping this specialized assistive technology heading will give us some amount of standardization possible. Now, again, my previous speakers have said, so I'm not taking a lot of time into the BIS certification or incorporating the WHO standards, but aligning with rights of persons with disability is some component which I think we should never compromise with. Even now, the national list for essential assistive products does not have, there are 21 products which have been highlighted and listed, but AAC is nothing. If you go into the ICMR report or to the adapted switch photo is there, the app photos are there, but it is not listed under the communication devices. So people are aware, but of course the priorities are going to the other. I'm not saying things should not be prioritized, but at least can we have in the next revised list, can the AAC come in? That is something which we are looking at. What is the key takeaway? Yes, harmonized guidelines will come if we are on the list. We have the user-centric thing and also simple instructions. Most of the, whether it is an eye gaze technology or whether it is a switch, the instructions which are coming is really like we need to read it 100 times to understand. A AAC user or a family is never going to understand what are the simple instructions. So all this and affordability and a digital accessibility, because denying an access to any digital forum is denying the access and the basic right of a human being. Now what happens, all manufacturers will have to have that. So at least there will be some standards, not, I'm not expecting great ones, but at least the minimum standards, certifications are there, and it will actually help more innovators to come up with ideas. Along with the government, I think we as people who are professionals, who are in the field of disability sector, we need to advocate for AAC being included into the national list, one, and AAC users have to be, and the professionals have to be on the advisory board, because even now the grassroots works, what we are having, the problems we are having are not getting reflected in anything. And forums like Isha and Isaac India chapter should do, I think, more of advocacy. I have my own colleague here, Ajish is sitting here. Both of us are on the Isaac thing, but I think we need to push more into getting AAC into the list. If we are on the list, at least standardizations might be, in future we can see. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your valuable address, ma'am. Move on